Hey everyone, it's Maria here. Welcome to today's Integrated Life and Business podcast. Today, I actually have a guest host, Peter Hagerty from Genion University, who's going to be interviewing me on a little bit of what I do. Welcome, Peter.
Thanks, Maria. I might interrogate you a little bit as well, and get some of those answers out that, some of the value that you might not be aware of because you're so close to your project.
I appreciate it. A good interrogation any day.
Yeah. So what is Integrated Life and Business? If you had to sum it up in a nutshell, what is the podcast?
The podcast is about how to integrate both your life and your businesses in a way that all of you are going into the same direction. So we want to make sure we're making good decisions, basing our decisions on good information that we're getting. So we're going and integrating the intuitive person, the sensory person, the thinker, the feeler within all of us, so we can move along to the same direction as a whole human being.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty interesting. So what's the benefit of being able to integrate your life and business like that? I mean, a lot of the benefits sound almost obvious, but how would you describe the benefits of being integrated in your life and business?
Well, some of the main benefits that I get reported back to from clients who have done this work either with myself or any number of our integration mentors all around the world is that their relationships improve, their understanding of themselves allow them to really relate to themselves in a different way and then relate to others as a result. And because you create this almost an amazing environment for yourself with the most supportive people in your life, beginning to really go down your own purpose path and really exploring yourself as a person and as a person of living a meaningful life becomes the norm. So we change an awful lot of these preconceptions that we come into the world with, if that makes sense. So we tend to just, become more of who we are, and as a result, live a lot more authentic life experience. Relationships get better. You become more purposeful. As I said, your vocation generally changes into a more supportive and into a more self-caring space, because now you're respecting yourself on a whole different level. So in short, integration work and just being a part of this Integrated Life and Business podcast has the power, if you utilize the information that you're getting, has the power to really change your life into a space where you want it to be.
Cool. And you mentioned some of I guess you alluded to some of the tools that you use in order to get people to integrate and become more balanced and focused and so on. And you talked about the feeler, the thinker, the intuitor. Did you talk about the sensor? Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
So where do these terms come from?
Okay. So a lot of this may seem familiar to you if you know anything about Myers-Briggs personality inventory tool, and if you've used it, you may have come across, the thinker, the feeler, the intuitive, the sensor. What we've done is we've worked on we've not really worked on another model, but using the Myers-Briggs typology will actually get you there faster, if you know what I mean. It's almost like a shortcut to the work that we do, which we call the 4 people within. So every person, in order to be complete, they have to be able to think, they have to be able to feel, and they also need to collect information in a way that they can base their decisions on in 2 ways, in an intuitive way and in a sensory way. Now, these are not new concepts. These were actually originally outlined by Carl Jung, who's, of course, the famous psychiatrist and psychoanalyst from Switzerland. So none of this is new information, and even Myers-Briggs system is actually based on Carl Jung's work. So what we've basically done is we've taken it to the next level where we can really amalgamate those 4 people within each person to become that better decision maker, to become that better information collector, and to live a more harmonious and meaningful life. So I don't know if that actually answered your question, but
Well, it did, and it prompted a whole lot of other questions. So you're talking about we have ways of collecting information and we have ways of using that information to then make decisions.
precisely. And if we collect corrupt information, we then can make really bad decisions.
Right.
Or if we learn to collect good information, we have then the capacity to make better decisions. But if we only favor one or the other of the decision makers, the feeler or the thinker, then you're still making unbalanced decisions, if that makes sense. So, we need to be able to collect information, both what's happening in the real world, real time, and also using our imagination to see what could be possible, what could be going on behind kind of closed doors or behind the curtain. And once we have all that information, and then we use both the thinker and the feeler to make the decision, the decisions are generally quite balanced and, foresightful. So you've thought ahead of time, not just reacting into the situation as it is. So you can become a very strategic and tactical decision maker in your life and in your business. I mean, who doesn't want to make better decisions in business, right?
I suppose if I think about bad decisions that I've made in the past, and if I hadn't collected corrupt information or used my own decision-making process to determine if the information I'd collected was corrupt or not, then I can imagine, well, I wouldn't have had that major issue that cost me 2 years of my life and so on. So this is what you're doing. We're nipping problems in the bud by collecting good information in the right way and making good decisions in the right way.
Exactly. So you're not just fixing the problems you already have with good decisions going forward. You're also preventing things from happening, ahead of time. And if you know this as a business person, I think every business person knows this, that 80% of the world's businesses fail in the first 5 years. Now, if you're a consultant or a coach or a mentor, it's even worse. It's 2 years. So, right. So if you've been in business for longer than 2 years, and you're a consultant or a coach or a mentor, then congratulations, you're in the top 20% of the world's businesses in your category, in your industry. But if we look at that statistic, you can see how rampant bad decision making is, because, whether it's a question of, oh, I didn't have the right clients, or I didn't have enough clients, or somebody sued us, all of those things probably would have been able to be prevented with better decision making, just being able to step back and say, hang on a second, do I have all the facts? Is this the most effective way of dealing with this issue? Does this feel authentic to me? As in, if everything goes pear-shaped, can I stand up and say, yes, I made that decision? And finally, is this the most harmonious way of making this decision? So if you can use all those different faculties when you're making a decision, you can prevent an awful lot of problems down the road.
So if somebody's, if they're stuck with a decision, like they feel, oh, I need to make a decision, but I can't. I may be too vague in my question, but is there some sort of general thing going on there, or some sort of piece of general advice you'd give somebody who feels stuck in their decision making?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, if you feel stuck, if you feel like there's no good decision to be made, is that kind of where you're coming from?
Well, I guess that's why they'd feel stuck. So yes.
Yeah. So they're kind of thinking, oh, I don't know which decision to make. It's probably generally because you don't see the benefits either on short or long term to your decision. So in those situations, I just really go back into those 4 different questions with a bonus question. Do I have all the information to make the decision? Because if you don't, then don't make the decision. If you don't have the facts of the decision to base your decision on, don't make it. Get more information. If it's not the most effective way of doing it, and you're not sure what's the better way of what's the more effective way of doing it, go and find out the information. What's a more effective way of doing it? sorry, if you can't, if you can't stand behind your decision, then you need to go and find out more information that you can make that decision, whether you can stand or can't stand behind it. And finally, if you don't absolutely know that the decision is the most harmonious one, then go and find out more information, find different ways of putting your decision across to the people whom it affects. And finally, like, there is a bonus question, which is like the fifth element of this whole this whole situation, which is this the right time to make this decision? Because sometimes it is not the right time. It's just simply not the right time. And we need to respect those things. Trying to hurry something because you feel uncomfortable not knowing is generally a recipe for disaster. Generally.
So once again, your answer I love your answer, and it's prompted a whole lot more questions. And so if you're having trouble making a decision, maybe you haven't collected enough information.
Yep.
And maybe it's not the right time to make the decision.
Yep.
So if you're collecting information, how do we know, like, there's two ways of collecting information? Our sensor, can you define the sensor a bit more?
Yeah, so the sensing is very much to do with your five senses, your feel, your touch, your eyesight, your hearing, all those things. But each of those, so the sensing can be either outward focused in the world. So I'm picking up, I can see that it's sunny outside. That's outward sensing. And then there's an inward sensing as well, which is oftentimes things like, this is how it's always been, so it's always going to be like this. This is how it's been in the past. So the inward sensing is very past oriented, whereas the outward sensing is very present oriented. What's actually happening right now? And then, so does that answer your question there? Because I'm just kind of like, I just want to keep talking about this.
So we've got two ways of collecting information, and each of those ways has, I guess, an internal way of collecting the information and an external way of collecting the information.
Absolutely.
So the sensor, we can look at the outside world and be present and go, well, this is what's happening. This is the facts. And we can also look internally and go, this is what I remember.
Right. This is my past experience. Yeah.
My history, the facts that I've got about what happened before say this. So that's the sensor way. So the sensor is fact. It's about facts. It's
all about facts.
Whether we're getting them from outside because of what's happening, or whether we're getting them from inside because of what we remember. Okay,
absolutely. Great. Yeah.
Thank you. And the other way is intuition. Now, let me ask you a tricky question. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Oh, go on.
This word, intuition. If I look up in the Mira-Sumalov dictionary under the word intuition, what does it say? How do you define intuition?
I actually define intuition as a really extensive and well-rehearsed pattern recognition skill. So it's to me, intuition is just all about what's the pattern here.
So in your dictionary, it's not magical.
No, not at all. No. It's a skill like everything else. You can actually learn to be intuitive. You just need to start small if you're not naturally an intuitive person, and then build on it. But a lot of people feel like intuition is like magic. It's this gut feeling, but actually the gut feeling comes because you're having like a cellular memory reaction to a pattern that you're observing, and that's giving you the gut feeling. So intuition to me isn't actually about gut feeling at all, other than it's just a reaction. Whereas actual intuition, whether it be outward facing or inward facing, is all about recognizing the patterns that you've seen. It's almost like you collect this bank of information inside of you about, if you're outward intuitive, about what's happening in the outside world or what could be possible in the outside world. Or if you're inward oriented with your intuition, it's about, what has happened in the past, what's happened, what's the kind of, what are the patterns that have arisen. I'm trying to go into my introverted intuition, which is what I have, which isn't a very, can't really communicate outward. Yeah, it's very non-articulate because
right.
it's an introverted process, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to articulate something that's really difficult to actually do at the same time as I'm doing it real time. But yeah, so the inward one is more about tuning into like this big, massive bank of information of how I've, in my own mind, made things, certain patterns mean certain things. So then I kind of draw from that. Oh, because this person is feeling uncomfortable when I'm talking about, for example, my traumatic past, that generally means, or has meant in the past to me, that, with other people, that this person may actually have some unresolved trauma inside of themselves too. So,
okay.
Or the other option, of course, is, because that's not, so I'm not saying that's accurate. I'm just saying that would be my interpretation of it as an introverted intuitive in that situation. Or it could just mean that the person can't relate to anything I'm saying at all, has never experienced any trauma at all. So it can be any number of things, but the person, like the bias with that introverted, inward turned intuition brings in what we make things mean, if that makes sense. So what's kind of possible for, on a subjective level.
So we're a little bit, if we're only using what you're calling introverted intuition, we there's a danger of being a bit self-absorbed.
Oh, completely. Okay. And that's why people my type, can be very self-focused in that the process has to be right, and that the kind of the process has to be clean. Basically, the process of thought has to be clean, and if that's not clean, then I'm unable to function in the outside world.
So if I'm someone who understands intuition in a particular way, and let's say I personally don't have this bias, but I certainly did in the past, and the bias is this: intuition is an internal experience only. Now you're talking about external intuition. So
yes.
What is external intuition? Why don't I know about it?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing about you and I, Peter, is that we're actually a real life couple. So this is a big treat, because we don't often get to work together. So I feel really privileged that you're taking this time to do this interview with me, and I wouldn't trust anybody else to do it anyway. But you have an extroverted intuition, and because you're a certain personality type, you're an INFP, I'm an INFJ, so we have different intuitive powers. And what it looks like, and this may be something that you can relate to on a personal level then, is that you look at something in the outside world and you go, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible. Then we could go down that rabbit hole. And that's what it looks like. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does. And because you're a lot more experienced with the Myers-Briggs system than I am, I'm wondering, I want to ask you a lot of questions about myself now, but this isn't about me. So
maybe we should do another podcast on INFJ, INFP issues or whatever.
So that's the thing about all of this work, right? We're looking at, you've got a method or a format or a model called the 4 People Within, and you're focusing on that with information collection methods and decision-making methods. Is that right? Is that what it focuses on?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And there's another word that has been used a lot in regards to 4 People Within work, which is inner parenting. And it is absolutely valid, and it's absolutely what it is. It's just, it can just get a little bit confusing for people who maybe haven't done a lot of personal development work, that, if you throw them into the inner parenting pool at the deep end, it might just be a little bit awkward or a little bit too difficult. But the 4 People Within concept is effectively a form of inner parenting work, where you can take your own traumas from wherever you've had traumas in your life, childhood, even later in life, and really turn those wounds, turn that pain into a power. By just parenting yourself, supporting yourself through these different life situations, teaching yourself to collect the information that's actually helpful for you, that's supportive for you, instead of being stuck in collecting information that's corrupt. Maybe, you know, a lot of PTSD, for example, is you not realizing that you're no longer in that traumatic situation, and therefore you can't kind of move out of it. So things, you know, inner parenting, or the 4 people within work that we do, it allows you to heal whatever you have going on, because it helps you to get a perspective that is inducive to your healing, as well as then make good decisions based on the information that you are collecting. Does that make sense?
Yep. So dipping back into external intuition, that's about, so internal intuition is about looking at your own inner senses and seeing patterns and so on, and external intuition is about seeing patterns in the outside world.
Well, the inward intuition is about what the kind of, it's because it's this bank of information. It's like, what interpretation have you made about information that you've collected in the past? And then the outward is more about right now. It's, hey, you know, that's possible, and that's possible, and that's possible. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so the inner parenting aspect, how does that work? Like, is that the decision-making process, or?
Okay.
Like,
so this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and that's why it's really important that you actually go and you do a proper study of yourself, because your inner parent is either a decision maker or an information collector, depending on your personality type. So,
so no wonder there's no simple answer here.
There's no simple answer.
According to what your style is.
Precisely.
So your inner parent, just like we have, our parents can be very different personalities as we're children.
Yes.
The parents inside of us can have different personalities. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're all crazy.
We're all just insane.
Okay,
but the way to work through this is, if you don't know what your Myers-Briggs type is, you go on over to personalityhacker.com and you do their assessment. That's the one I recommend, because I find that it's been the most accurate with people, the thousands of people that I've worked with.
I just want to second that. I want to interrupt you. Sorry. I want to second that. I find doing my own coaching works so much easier if I get people to use the personality hacker
model, the Genius style assessment.
Test, because it just complicates things. If personally, I just wouldn't use anything else, and I don't get any commission from these guys.
No.
I just like them. I love their tool.
Yeah.
It works, and
So you go and you do that
time and use that one.
Precisely. Precisely. So you go and you do that. You go and you do that test, and then you go and check out the 4 people within self-study course, because that will actually get you on that path. And you can find that at maryasumilov.com in the courses section. This is not a shameless self-promotion, or see it however you want. I don't really care. This is more about, if you're curious about who you are personally, those are the 2 tools that I really recommend for that, because they are the most effective tools to get you going on this journey. They've been purpose-built for this, in my experience. Yeah.
So the 4 people within is about knowing your own decision or information collection and decision-making styles.
Yes.
Which is your inner parent. And I guess there's some children involved in this as well, right? And what your inner child starts doing. Yeah.
So
sorry, go on.
So you have 2 grown-up parts of you. So you have like the adult self, and which is your most rehearsed, most practiced part of you. So if you're naturally an outward intuitive person, then that's your adult self. Then you have the inner parent, who's the other kind of grown-up person, and they are actually the exact opposite of your adult self. So if your adult self is an information collector and outward facing, then your inner parent is a decision maker that's inward facing.
Okay.
So
there's a balance.
They balance each other out. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there'll be one that's extroverted and one that's introverted.
Yes. In the grown-ups.
Parents. And so there's 2 parents, which is, we hope.
Well, two
How-
grown ups. Let's not say two parents because
Oh,
it's
they're not
one,
parents.
parent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two adults.
Two adults.
And are there two children?
There are two children. There's a 10-year-old
Okay.
and a 3-year-old inner child. And I first came across this actually through Personality Hackers' work because they have this amazing model called the CAR model, and it gives you all those different parts of you. And I saw them for the first time because I'd already got into inner child work and I'd been doing that for quite some time. And then I saw this, model, and I just said, that makes so much sense that we have this 10-year-old and we have this 3-year-old, because I've been thinking that my inner child has been bipolar. I didn't understand. There's two.
Switching modes.
Right. And they also have one decision maker and one information collector. And one of them is also introverted and extroverted. So the two pairs, like the grown-ups and then the children, they complement each other, as it were.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is all based on Myers-Briggs, and we've got 4 kind of styles that are more pronounced in us. There's 2 adults and 2 children.
Yep.
So I guess the children part of the styles that aren't as developed as the adult styles.
Yeah, that's right. They're usually the ones that develop kind of later in life. But in fact, something that I've noticed with people is that a lot of the times, like in and around the 10-year-old, like after your imprint period in life, which is 3 to 7 years of age approximately, when you hit that kind of preteen or even early teenage years, a lot of, like, if you got traumatized in that area, that usually shows up in your inner 10-year-old. And the same is true for the inner 3-year-old. If you had trauma before your imprint period, it generally shows up in the 3-year-old inner child as well. So it's a very, very interesting model to use to really amalgamate all parts of yourself so that you can all then move in the same direction in life.
So I find myself, I guess, probably like a whole lot of people listening to this, I'm wanting to ask you a whole lot of very specific questions.
Yeah.
And rather than make this a 12-hour interview, because I know that you've got the knowledge I want to go a bit more general, a bit more kind of, 30,000 foot view here. So we have these things that happen to us. Maybe we have some trauma and so on, and that influences us to have a particular style of how we do things, how we collect information, whether it's introverted way of collecting information or extroverted way of collecting information, whether it's intuitive or sensor. And then we have, then we just make decisions with that information, which might be introverted, extroverted, and using our feelings or using our thoughts to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And you said earlier on that you're better off using both capacities or both styles wherever possible, if you can.
Yeah.
Make better decisions. And then that's how you end up with integrated life and business, by you're integrating yourself.
Yeah.
So we're not going, well, I need to change my calendar so that way I'll have an integrated life.
That's
Your
right.
work is like, no, hang on, the calendar is a result of the work.
Exactly. It's about you being whole in yourself, and then and bringing that whole self into the outside world, and actually be a part of the outside world in some capacity. And that's really what, living a purposeful life, or a life full of sense of belonging is all about. You can't belong if you're not authentically who you are, and you can't belong if people don't accept you. Okay. So, there's a lot there.
So this podcast is about this sort of information, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So will people learn everything they need to know from this podcast as you go forward with different episodes? Well,
I don't think you ever learn everything. And so that's not good news for anybody tuning in to this podcast.
Well, for those of us who love learning, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to do what I can to give as many perspectives as possible. and to have as accurate a representation and as authentic a representation as I possibly can. And I want to bring the information out as effectively and as harmoniously as I possibly can. Of course, nobody's perfect. And will you get all the information you need in these podcasts? No, there's a reason why I wrote, for example, the 4 People Within course. It's a very specific, almost like a Polaroid snapshot that you need to inspect of yourself before you can. I'm not saying you have to do the course in order to benefit from this podcast. I'm not saying that at all. By all means, don't do the course. It's all the same to me. But I will say that if you have those tools, you will get so much more out of these podcasts. These podcasts will be more like supercharged information. And because your mind is already open at a certain level, because you've done the 4 People Within course, it just gets in, the information just gets in there faster, and you're able to process it a lot faster. And then you'll have a personal point of view as well. So
doing the 4 People Within course, where you get to know, well, this is my adult and this is I have this bias.
Yeah.
You'll know this about yourself. You
will, if you know what your personality type is. So if if you already identify as a certain Myers-Briggs type, together with that course, you learn to know those. And we have amazing proactive Facebook groups for different kind of segments of people, and people just bring their learnings from these courses in there, and bring their learnings from these podcasts in there, and converse. So it's like we've created a parallel universe of people who actually want to integrate themselves and be happy in their lives and normalize that. I was in a meeting yesterday, just without going too much into it. I was in a meeting yesterday, and some of the people there were talking about mobile phone coverage in a specific area. And and they've been fighting this for years and years and years. And I actually had a possible resolution for them to their problem. And because I was a visitor, or I don't know, for whatever reason, I was a visitor there, and I made this suggestion that, hey, I can put you in contact with people who can solve this problem for you straight away. They weren't actually interested in solving the problem. They were interested in talking about the problem. And so,
yes.
Right? So all of us know people like that. And while there's nothing wrong with, talking about the issues that you have, unless you're looking to proactively solve the issues that you have, you won't have that sense of integration. You won't have that sense of belonging. All these people are going out in their own little worlds now and continue that same story about there's nothing we can do. And I was just saying, look, I have an option for you. I can put you in touch with people who might be able to help you. So this work and the Facebook groups, and there are like a parallel universe where people come in and actually proactively want to have live a happy and meaningful life. And so I know it's not a norm out there, and I was reminded of it last night, but on my way home, I just felt so grateful for that not to be my reality, for my reality to be, if there's a problem, we can resolve it. If there's a situation that has like a misunderstanding in it, we can resolve it. So you just become a lot more able to steer your own life the more this work you do, this integration work.
So you're alluding to the car model, I guess. You can steer your own life because...
I wasn't, but that's a good point.
Right, okay. So you have the right person in the driver's seat at the right time. So sometimes you need to have an information collector who's exploring the issue, driving the car model. Sometimes you need to have a decisive person who's emotional or feeling. Sometimes you need to have one that's very logical. Sometimes you need to have both. I guess you can have a navigator as well, right?
Well, the thing is that, if you look at the personality hacker car model, you will always only have one driver. Okay. So your driver doesn't change, but the driver is balanced out with what they call the co-pilot or the navigator. which is of course the inner parent, what we call the inner parent part of you. So yeah.
So the inner parent is the co-pilot.
Co-pilot. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Again, I have a million questions, but let's not. So just getting to the gist of what we're actually discussing here. You can listen to the podcast. You get a whole lot of great information about where you might sit, what functions you tend to lean towards.
Yep.
Which ones are a bit childlike.
Yep.
And I hear you say, let's not have the 3-year-old driving the car. I heard
Ideally.
You say that.
Yeah.
Ideally. So, do I have my 3-year-old driving the car? And,
yeah.
But, somehow... Yeah. Anyway, I have a million more questions. So
fair enough. This is a very common response I get when I talk to people about this. I have a million more questions. Yeah.
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 And look, I do know a lot more about it than I'm kind of portraying myself as. I'm trying to ask questions that I think somebody who doesn't know this work would ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even so, even though I do know a lot more than the average person about this method, the questions keep coming, the learning keeps coming, and the empowerment and the integration keeps happening.
Absolutely.
And going. And I know you've assisted me. You've said, you're stuck in your introverted loop, which is a whole other concept, which we probably don't have time for today.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm stuck in this loop going around in circles. And you say certain things to me, and because I'm stuck in the loop, I don't actually remember how you do it because I'm stuck in this perspective. And then you're like, well, how about you try this, and how about you try that? And when you first started doing it, it used to annoy me because it's almost like I'm in this loop. I'm stuck in this problem. How dare you try and interrupt my obsession with my problem with your damn solutions? Yeah. And we all do it.
Yeah.
And then so now through listening to you, through being humble and listening to you, I now know that for my particular personality type, if I'm going around in circles, the remedy is to go and explore something.
Yes,
because that's my inner parent.
Exactly, precisely.
So, and this is not me giving general advice to the people listening to this podcast, because you're all different personality types. And what I just said, if you did that, it might even put you into a loop.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. So this is where we're going. This is why the 4 people within is good to know, because we're all different. We all function differently. We have different mechanisms of how things work, and we create different problems for ourselves.
Yes.
Or we attract them to ourselves. I know I attract certain problems in my life that seem to repeat.
Yes.
But through getting to know myself better and being more aware of the interactions within myself, I go, hey, now instead of getting hit in the face by the problem, I can go, oh, look, there's that problem over there on the horizon and it's coming my way.
Right.
I'm just going to avoid that one or go straight toward it with an actual solution.
Right.
So this is what the 4 people within does. It equips you with the knowledge of the tools that you've got inside you already.
Right.
Which you normally would be like, crying, screaming because you feel like you're crazy.
Yes.
Like I said at the beginning, joking, but I wasn't totally joking. We're all crazy, right?
Yeah.
We've all got all this stuff going on inside us. We're not perfectly integrated individuals. And the 4 people within, by recognizing, there's 4 of us in there, we start bringing it all together.
And start giving ourselves some slack and some, extending some grace towards ourselves by just saying there are 4 different people within us who all have 4 different sets of needs that we need to meet. So you are not, I'm not a medical person. I'm not going to say you're not bipolar, because you might be. I don't know whoever is tuning into this, but most people feel bipolar and they are not, because on one hand they're feeling this way but they're thinking this way, or their intuition is saying this but the facts seem to be saying that. You're not actually, most people's problems are not actual personality problems. They're just the fact that they're just the core of the problem is that the 4 people within they're fractured. They're not together. They're like running their own agendas. And when you have that, you generally tend to have a very dramatic life. Things just there seems to be drama all the time. So the more drama you have in your life, the more you need to do this work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting great information out of this podcast, I can go and grab the 4 People Within program and deepen the work. And just like every time you answer a question, I have more questions.
Yeah.
Is there more, like, is that going to raise more questions if I do the 4 People Within?
It will, and the questions that it will raise, you can bring either to our proactive and lively and loving and caring Facebook group, or alternatively, some of our mentors are running these live groups, like three sessions a month for 3 to 6 months or 12 months or something like that. And you can go and work alongside other people. And we're running these all over the world in different time zones, because we have different people in different qualified mentors in different places to do this. And we also do it in English, we do it in Finnish, we do it in German. So currently,
okay,
so
nice.
there's a lot of there are a lot of options, but currently the course is only in English. But I am in a process of getting translated to Finnish and German as well.
So the Finnish and German people, that they're actually in Finland and Germany?
Finland and Switzerland. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
but of course, everybody,
Swiss German.
Yeah, everybody in Switzerland has to learn High German or Hochdeutsch, which,
And do you have people in the US?
Absolutely. We have actually most of our mentors, qualified mentors, are in the US, and then we have some here in Australia as well.
Great. So you've got mentors. So how did they become mentors?
So I'm trying not to go like too way back in the distant past, but
they were born perfect.
They were born perfect. No, These are people. So I do a mentoring training program called Integration Mentor Program. And it's a 12-month program in which I teach people how to become mentors and how to help other people, who might be following in their footsteps. And the main thing about becoming a mentor is that you have to have a certain amount of life experience. So I don't teach like generalized coaching information and off you go now. You have to have a certain amount of life experience so that you can relate to the clients that you're helping with firsthand. So for example, one of our students works with brain injuries. She's had 3 brain injuries herself, so she knows exactly what she's talking about. We have another mentor who works with people who are overcoming childhood sexual abuse. She's experienced that in her own childhood, so she knows what she's talking about. We have previous pro athletes, we have queer people, we have African American people, we have pretty much. I'm wanting to have something available for every person on this planet that they feel that there is somebody who's been doing this work ahead of them, so that they can feel comfortable working with these mentors. So we have amazing people, different religions, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, men, women. It's just incredible. I just feel so privileged to work with so many different people, and we're all coming together with this common purpose of bringing more care and support in the world on a really large scale. And that is incidentally my what I want to leave behind, my legacy.
Beautiful. So I just want to nip back to, you've got a mentor who's had brain injuries, and that mentor helps people who have brain injuries, who have or are recovering from. Yeah, Rani. I think she also might be working a little bit with people who have been affected by brain injury but haven't had firsthand experience, because it's such an important part for the mentor to be able to explain to a person who hasn't experienced the brain injury what it's actually like for the person who might not be able to explain it. Okay. So your mentoring program is helping people to learn how to mentor people with the issues that the mentor themselves may have had.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like, I just keep going back to the fact that the best drug rehabilitation people or therapists are people who have been addicts.
Absolutely. I
And
absolutely
so
believe that.
they're like, this is the model that you're following.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing? You're taking people who they've had a challenge in their life, they overcome it, maybe by doing their own work or perhaps by doing the 4 people within, and then they do further training or something.
Yeah, so a lot of people, well, actually, the people who come into the program have already done some of the 4 people within work, and that's generally why they come into the program, is because they've seen the power of the 4 people within work beforehand. So
there's this path of progression. So people could listen to the podcast, get some information. They would know, hang on, do I want to try out this 4 people within thing? And they go, yeah, I'll give that a whirl. And then suddenly they're like, oh, I just gave it a whirl, and oh my God, I feel so much more empowered. What else can I do? Then they can train to become a mentor ideally in their area where they themselves have had challenges. So this is different from the coach, which may not have experience in the area.
That's right. We all of our mentors are people, and that's why we don't call ourselves coaches, is because I believe that a coach is a person who can technically help you with things, but doesn't necessarily have the first-hand experience in what they're teaching you on. Whereas a mentor for me is a person who walks beside their client, hand in hand if needs to be, like the honorary big sister or big brother, to really help the person move beyond where they are right now. And there are always there's a good time to hire a coach, there's a good time to hire a mentor, and there's a good time to hire a therapist. So we're not a therapist either. We are, as I said, like a big sister or a big brother who just walks beside, or maybe a couple of steps ahead, and lights the way with the lantern for the people following in their footsteps. So we're very gentle. We're like teammates. We're like cheerleaders. We're like, I'm on your team, and I'm going to do what I can to get you where you want to go.
So it's almost like, using an analogy, if somebody has an injury and their leg gets mangled or something, they might go to surgery, and that's like a therapist. Let's get in there and really fix that thing. And then in recovery, they might do physiotherapy, and that's like the mentor who's now, hey, and a lot of the time physiotherapists have had injuries.
Yes.
So there's that pattern.
Yes.
Or they've had some sort of limitation in their health when they were a child or something, and then they want to help people. So having had the wound helps you to become a better mentor. So what
Absolutely.
People who are feeling screwed up, there's a message of hope that you're giving them, which is you can heal from that and maybe help others too.
Yeah. Not only can you heal, with that, and I feel that may have struck a chord within you too on a personal level, but your greatest gifts to the world lie beneath the deepest wounds that you've ever experienced. There's such a power. If you take that pain and you're able to turn that into a power, you can show others how to do the same. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing, if you look at the humankind for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before the kind of the modern times, everybody, there was a like a tradition of mentorship in different tribes, and we've lost that. There aren't those people anymore who just take you kind of under their wing and just kind of bring you along. And we're trying to bring that back. And because it's such a new old space, we need to do it in a way that is, we're paid mentors effectively. So we're doing this professionally. This is our profession. And we need to, because the humankind is still using money as a way of, exchanging value in life. We need to be on that bandwagon, but perhaps in 1,000 years it's changed again, and mentors can have a different kind of role in life. But we need to make the most out of the current situation and build the bridges as we go. Yeah.
So how, again, I have a million questions. How are people, how do you train these mentors? I mean, they've got a wound, and then you're like, hey, you can use that wound to help others. I mean, it doesn't magically happen like, oh, wow, thanks for that idea, Maria. Now I'm able to do that.
Now I can do this. Right? Yeah.
How do you get them from maybe being a bit of a victim mentality to transforming themselves and then helping others transform?
Yeah, well, the main thing is that you need to do your own work. So you can do the 4 people within work. You can do whatever integration work you need to do in order to show up in a training course, which is effectively giving you a profession, which is not effectively, it's giving you a profession if you do what you're supposed to do throughout the training. You need to make sure that you're not just blowing hot air. You need to actually have done your own work and seen results for yourself firsthand. We are probably the furthest away from hype that you'll ever see in personal development industry. And I know it's really common. I know hype is really common in personal development industry. It's too tiring for me. I just get too exhausted. I'm too introverted for that stuff. And also, I don't like to focus on the possibilities. I like to focus on the actual results. So if you haven't done your own work, if you haven't done your own integration work, there's no way in hell you'll get into integration mentor program, because you won't be able to help anybody if you haven't done it yourself.
There's a certain bar you've got to reach as far as your own healing or your own commitment to healing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've had different kinds of people. We've had people who've never even considered being a coach or considered being a mentor. They've done their own healing journey. They've noticed how much it helped them. Then they went like, I could help others with this too. And they've done their 4 people within work, and then they move on to the integration mentor program because they just enjoyed the process so much. And they come out as integration mentors. Then there are other people who've done, they might even be therapists or counselors who've done a counseling or a therapy qualification, and they're already doing that work, but they don't understand, like they like our approach, so they might come into the program having done a little bit of inner parenting work, and when they get their hands into the 4 people within concept, they understand it straight away because they've done so much work. And they just go through the program, work through the 4 people within, and come out as integration mentors. So there are as many ways of doing this as there are people, but the common denominator is that you can't teach something you haven't actually achieved. Like, I have this thing, and I see this all the time with, especially in the coaching industry, people teaching stuff that they have no first-hand experience about. It just makes me so angry to hear somebody give business coaching advice to somebody who's never built like the person's never built a business that was successful themselves. Like, why? So I have this, so I'm sorry that I'm a little bit excitable. I'm not sorry. Those are the facts. But the thing is that, so I have this rule that unless you've done it 3 times yourself successfully, you have no business teaching it. So, a part of the program that we haven't actually even talked about is the career of being a mentor. I'm saying I can show you how to build your business from 2 to 4 years after you finish your studies to 200 to 200 grand to whatever a year. Why am I saying that? Because I've done it myself at least 3 times in the past in different circumstances. So I can say I can bring you there if you do these things.
So That I was actually, I'm glad you came back to this, because I was wanting to ask you a question. You said before we're giving you a business or something, or you said we're leading you to create your own business.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, and there are many examples of this, especially in the personal development industry. The example I'll use is a massage therapist. Let's say they do level 1 of training and they don't have any clients, and then they go to their person that's trained them, and the person that's training them says, oh, well, maybe you need to do level 2.
Yeah.
Still don't get clients when they finish level 2. And then they're like, well, level 3, level 4. And then it just keeps going.
Yep.
And this happens in the coaching training industry as well. And I personally get a lot, because I know how to build a business.
Yes.
And I get a lot of people coming in, oh, I've done all this coaching training. I'm NLP master certification. I've got all this, and they've got all these certificates.
Yes.
But no business.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't get taught how to build a business.
That's right.
They get skills, but they don't learn how to market those skills. So you're saying that you teach them how to do that. Is that something you... Is that in your program?
Absolutely. Because what's the point of doing mentoring training if it doesn't prepare you to do the actual work? There's so much more. Your skill set as a mentor is entirely different skill set than as a business owner and person who runs the business. And the beauty of what we do is we teach people how to create the business systems in their business as they're studying. So they are left with standard operating procedures for themselves, which is the basis of your business. So all you have to do is follow these operational procedures, and you will have a solid business structure. But then, of course, you need to be able to do marketing. If you don't know what your brand is, which, by the way, is not your logo or your letterhead, your brand is what people say about you when you're not there. That's what your brand really is. Yeah. Unless you know what your brand is and how you can put it across to people, you're unable to propose to people for them to become your clients. I'm going next week. I think it's next week, it's next week. I'm going to speak at at Fishburners in Sydney, which is a tech startup, and I'm speaking on the topic of how to bring your ideas into light. So basically, how to get your idea pitched to the right people. And it's the same thing, unless you know what your product is, what you're offering, and how you can converse that product or relay that product or service, the benefits of it to the person who needs it, you won't have a business. You just have all these mentoring skills that you can use on your own in your own home because nobody's there.
There's this persistent myth that if I have the best product or the best service, I will be successful, and it is just not true.
No, it's not true.
Best communicated, so the value is created when the value is communicated to the person, to the marketplace.
Yeah.
Because if you're just sitting there with, going back to the massage therapist, you could be the best massage therapist in the world.
Yep.
But if you're not working on anybody, you're not, because you're not actually delivering it. The best one is the one that actually delivers the value. And so you're also teaching people. You said you start from in the program itself, how to build the system. So they're in the first stages of the program and they're already starting to learn how to build the business? Is that what happens?
Well, the first stage is actually you as a mentor. Who are you actually, and how will you identify yourself as the mentor? Who are the people that you can actually really help from your own life experience? So we start the branding process straight from the gates. So then when it comes to months 11 and 12, when we're actually looking at branding and marketing, you've already in your own mind built a brand for yourself and started to see different ways of marketing to that brand. We've already started using different words throughout your training. So I'm basically manipulating the student to go from what their wounds are to being able to offer that service to a person. So the business systems don't come in until I think term 2. And I don't just show you how to build it. I will make you build it. Your homework is do this procedure.
So I just want to underline how important what you've just actually said is, especially for people who haven't had a business before. The single biggest challenge with marketing a business is knowing what your niche is, because people think, oh, you know, I'm going to market to everyone. That's the recipe for failure.
Yeah,
Focus is what
absolutely.
produces the results, and
Yep.
focus is found in the niche.
Yeah.
And while you've just said, no, I'm not teaching the business systems until stage 2 or 3 or something, you've also said the first stage is, who are you as a mentor?
Yeah.
And I hear that as an experienced business person who's been in business for 30 or more years, more than 30 years. I hear what you're doing is you're helping them find their niche from the get-go.
Yeah.
They come in, and the most important thing is about marketing is being uncovered straight away. You may be not helping them realize that until
That's right.
later in the program. I imagine you go back and go, hey, remember when we did that stage 1 stuff? We found out about you. Well, guess what? That's what's going to help you with your marketing, because it's about you. We're marketing you. You are your brand.
Yes.
And I just got to say that's, I don't think people, I reckon a lot of people who come through your program, maybe 5 years later, they'll go, oh, wow, that was,
I agree.
That was, and it's one of those things, and we all do it. And we all have things where we realize many years later how important something was. And I think this is one of those.
Yeah.
I think that's just fantastic. And I'm not saying that because you're my partner. Like, I didn't know that you did that.
No, you didn't know that. You don't know a lot about what I do. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. And I'm enjoying it, because we're getting to know each other on a different level.
On this level,
Yeah, because we don't get to work together much.
Yeah, we don't spend our whole day talking about our businesses. We have a life. So you're kind of resolving, for me, one of my pet peeves, because I've helped a lot of coaches actually create businesses. I hear this, it's like, oh, I've done like this many years of coaching training, or worse, I've done a 1 week program, now I'm a coach, you know, like, hang on, no.
Yeah.
You've got an intro to coaching if you've done 1 week.
Yes,
But if you've done a many years program, and this is unfortunately the answer that I get so frequently, I go, well, what's your niche? And they're like, what's a niche?
Right.
And then my answer is, a niche is the single most important thing you need to know in order to make your business successful.
Right.
And there are many important things, but if you only go for one, that's it.
Yeah.
And you've done this program and they haven't covered that. And I'm not bitching about the quality of the programs for skills, but I am saying, you know, there's almost a suggestion in most of these programs that if you learn the skills, you will now magically have a business.
That's right.
And that is just wrong.
That is how those programs are sold. And it really grinds my gears. It really does grind my gears when people are sold something that has no follow through. Like, I feel like they're being lied to.
It's like selling somebody a car and there's no engine in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hang on,
it looks fine. Yeah,
it looks great,
fine.
But, you know, I turn the key and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, you need to buy another car. Well, will that have an engine in it?
Or you need to, yeah, right. So it's like your marketing and your niching, your marketing, they're all your engine. Like, without those, your business doesn't drive. You don't get business. You might get lucky, as in you might be lucky and get business, but if your car doesn't have an engine, you don't drive it very far.
And this is what I see. You pay $5, $10, $20, even $40,000 for a training program.
Yeah.
And then you practice on your friends, or you practice on the people in the program, and you may be paid somewhere between $20 and $100 once or twice.
Yeah.
But then you can't make that leap into actual real business.
Yeah.
And so you're setting them up in your program for that to not be an issue that's noticed, because unfortunately when that issue becomes noticed by most people, it's kind of, you've used up all your enthusiasm in the actual training to get the skill.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, oh no, hang on, what? There's more? Whereas they don't have that in yours. And I'm sorry if I'm laboring this point too much, but just think about this. You go and learn a whole lot of stuff. You know, it's like, let's go and learn to be an astrophysicist. Well, how many jobs are there for astrophysicists?
Yeah.
You know, there aren't many. So if you want to do it for the passion, great, do it for the passion of it.
Yeah.
but don't be deluded that having a piece of paper means you're going to make money, because
That's right.
Whereas you're setting them up to tackle those problems from the beginning. And I think that's just one of the most wonderful things that I've heard for a long time.
Well,
So,
that, and that's just one part of the, when you're talking about what's being done, like what the norm is in this industry, I'm just like, I would not be a good poker player. I'm just, it's painful for me to even listen to it. And I know you and I have had this conversation many, many, many times over many, many, many years. So, it's painful to hear what the reality out there is. But it's not just yes, you'll have the business systems. Yes, you'll have that. You actually practice every single thing that you're like, so when you're finished, when you're a mentor, you practice every single activity throughout your studies that you will be doing afterwards. So you're practicing talking about your business, you're practicing networking, you're practicing working with clients, you're practicing doing suitability calls, you're practicing on converting the client, you're practicing on ending your working relationship, you're practicing on, talking to people, marketing your business. So creating what I call COCOS partnerships, which is it's a marketing method that's mutually respectful business. It's about building mutually respectful business relationships. So that's part of the studies as well. So you practice all those different things in training before you go out there and do it. And I don't understand why this isn't the norm. Is it, why isn't this the norm? Is it because I grew up in Finland where we had phenomenon-based learning style, where you learned everything in a context to something else? I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. But why? Why are people being taught coaching techniques and then said, you're now a qualified coach, off you go and build a business? No idea about how to build a business.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you actually charge properly for what you do, you become better and better and better. And so I'm harping on a little bit about this business side and how you're helping them get the business side happening. Not only because I want them to make money, but I want them to provide a quality of service. And you're helping people do that, because let's face it, if somebody's buying you a cup of coffee in exchange for coaching, your commitment to that, to helping them, is probably not as high as if you're charging them $500 for the hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you and I pay that to coaches, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We pay that
regularly,
and because we know those coaches, those mentors, it's worth it.
It's absolutely worth everything. And the whole point of, especially when you're getting business coaching, is that you get a return on your money. And the same is true for this course, this mentoring course that I'm running. It has to make you money. It is an investment. It is not an intellectual entertainment course that you just take. It's an investment. So, showing up when you're being paid properly it's on. And the same is actually true for the client. Like if the client, and I know it myself, if I don't pay for something, I don't appreciate what I learn. I don't implement it because it doesn't actually have value. So when people talk about, the coaching courses or the mentoring courses are so expensive, well, yeah, that's fair enough. But it's giving you I'm not talking about a coaching course or a mentoring course. I'm talking about my course. I want to be really clear that there's a difference. And that may seem like I'm up my own backside, but I've just done it for long enough that I can see what the results are. So I have enough data to back this up. So what I'm saying is you're getting a profession. You're not paying, you're not doing me any favors paying for something and showing up on this course. No, you're getting a profession out of it, that you're able to go and build your own life the way that you want to live. So we all want freedom. And that's what I'm effectively giving people through this training, is I give them the freedom to choose their own lifestyle, doing something that they absolutely love.
So you're doing that just with this podcast because you're giving this information. You're doing it with the 4 people within. And you're doing it with people can get mentoring from your mentors. And if they want to become mentors, they can also become mentors.
Yeah.
And that's a bona fide business. That's a real thing. And so you're helping them build their own lives and live it how they want to live it on all these different, depending upon what level of intensity or commitment that they want. And so you're providing. So yeah, nice.
And they're willing to do, because this isn't like sign up for this course and now magically you'll have clients afterwards. You will have to do the outward facing activities consistently after you finish your studies, or even throughout your studies, which is something that I really recommend that you do. And I keep repeating it. Do this now, do this now so that people can keep up with your education, your level of education. So when you're actually out there, when you're finished with your training, people already know that you're a mentor. So I teach people how to do that. And it's just, it just becomes so pivotal in building that life, that you must understand that nothing is served on a silver platter. You must understand that. If you want to build the life that you want to build, it's called building the life that you want to build. It's not, let me hand you over the life you want to build. It's actually building it one step at a time, one corner post at a time, one roof sheet at a time. You build it. It's not a hand it over. Now, while most companies will take about 5 years to build it to a space of profit, and that's traditional metrics. With this, if you do what I tell you to do throughout your studies and afterwards consistently, you can build a really nice income, a 6-figure income within 6 to 12 months of finishing your training. And that is very unusual in this industry.
Well, I can see why.
So sorry, unless you're based on hype. Apologies. Yeah.
And I guess that part of the way that you're able to do that is because you're integrating using those building blocks. We talked about making better decisions at the very beginning of this discussion. And so you're making the quality of your decisions is being upgraded.
Yep.
As you go through, because you're integrating and
Yep,
so
exactly.
There's an elegance in the way you've designed this, which I was not fully apprised of or aware of.
Look, I've never told anybody this before. You're asking really good questions that will highlight what it actually is. And the frustration, like I haven't been able to answer these questions or talk about these things in this way before. So I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to talk about it this way. So you ask excellent questions. But yeah, the integration process will balance out your information collecting parts, your decision making parts, and also your introversion, extroversion, which means that, you're not just doing the introverted stuff, or you're not just doing the extroverted stuff. You come out of this program having done the 4 People Within beforehand, a lot more balanced. You'll actually come out as a balanced business person. And as I just said, if you do what you're meant to be doing, the outward facing activities together with the inward facing strength building abilities, what will actually happen is you'll be in that 20% of the world's businesses that doesn't fail in the first 5 years.
Yes.
So just like that, in a year and a half, you went from not even knowing if you wanted to run your business into being in that 20%, or having the capacity to be in that 20%. So that's actually pretty incredible now that I think of it myself. I've never thought about it that way before.
Yeah. And I can see, like, I just hearing what you're saying, I started running businesses when I was very young. And somebody once asked me, what's the best personal development program out there? And I said, I didn't even think, I said, start your own business.
Yeah.
and they were like, seriously? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I didn't think about it, but now that it's come out of my mouth, that's actually very true. Like I kind of accidentally said something very insightful. And I just think that this has got everything. It's got the work on yourself. It's got the work to put it out there and put yourself on the line that you can deliver value to others.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I was going to say that's where the real growth happens, but it's all real growth.
Yes,
You know,
it
I mean,
is.
that's where the rubber hits the road. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
you know, we can have all of our theories about everything in life, the universe and everything,
Yep.
but it doesn't mean a single thing until we actually apply it. And so you're
Yeah.
getting them to apply it in a real world sense.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting images of people in training programs for different therapies where they basically just do the therapy on everybody else in the training program, and that's about as far as they go.
Exactly. And that happens a lot.
That's fair enough if that's what you want to do. That's a personal choice, but you're with you, they can journey the whole way if they want.
Absolutely. And I actually get quite a few of those people who've done other things before, but they never actually learned to build a business.
Yes.
Because it wasn't taught. And why isn't it taught? Like, what are you actually selling, you know? So, sorry, yeah. I don't mean, I want to be really clear. Like, I'm not, I don't need, it may come across that I have this real strength and conviction in my own, it may come across like I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid all the time, right? But I don't care who's right. I just care about what works. And that's why we are as far ahead of the kind of the norm as we are. I mean, one of the people who used to do mentoring for the International Coaching Federation went through our curriculum, and she was a mentor for coaches who have this qualification. She went through our curriculum and she just said, I've never seen a wider, more extensive curriculum. So well done, you know. Good.
Nice. Yep.
She was asking about accreditation, you know, do I have accreditation with an international body? And I just said, I haven't found an international body that I want to align this work with. And this is my problem. So I don't know, do I need to start one? Or maybe I'll just find the best one. And so I want to just say, I don't think I'm always right. I don't think, it's just the facts speak for themselves. I don't need to be right. I don't care about being right. It's like what actually works. And then when you get feedback like that, it's really validating. It's really validating.
Yeah, well, you deserve it.
Thank you.
We're kind of going over time.
Yes.
So, but I just want to say I feel the same way that whoever it was from the International Coaching Federation, I feel the same way. I feel like I've just discovered the depth and the consideration and the elegance that actually goes into the program that you've designed. And I can see why it does so well. I can see why, I'm really impressed. So it's
thank you.
to
and
know this about you in this context.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I mean, you are a coach of 30 plus years. So it means a lot to get that validation from you too. Not that we thrive on validation, but it just confirms, I think it confirms it has the power to confirm what you think is going on. Yeah. So it's always good to kind of talk to people that you trust and respect and ask for their opinion on what you're doing so that you're not delusional about what you're doing. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So if you wanted to leave people with one thing, that one kind of bit of wisdom or how they can make their life how they want it to be, what would you say?
This is an old one. Know thyself.
Of course, yes. And there's 4 people in there to get to know.
There's 4 people within there that you need to get to know. And once you get to know those 4 people, then you can actually make other decisions about your life. So don't try to make serious decisions about your life until you actually know what's authentic to you, what's harmonious to you and for other people, you know, what's actually factually accurate and what's the most effective way that you want to live your life. So don't try to jump ahead of the queue and make decisions when you don't have enough knowledge yet to make good decisions.
Nice. And you can do that by knowing yourself. Absolutely.
There are a thousand ways of knowing yourself. The most effective one I had to develop, which was the 4 people within that I've come across to date. So it's not, if you have something that works for you, do it. So this is not about that program. It's just do whatever works.
Nice. So I really appreciate the opportunity to ask you these questions, and I feel I've gotten a lot out of it, and I'm sure that everybody else who's listening will get a lot out of this. There's a lot to be considered here.
Thank you. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know I'm busy. We're both busy. We're, doing our own things. So I really, to be interviewed by a coach and a personal development professional of your caliber is truly a privilege that I don't take very lightly. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's wonderful to be a part of uncovering just what you're able to deliver to people.
Thank you.
So thank you.
All right. So my thanks to Peter Hagerty. Thank you so much once more. And we'll continue in the next episode of Integrated Life and Business Podcast. We'll see you there.